Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi one sucky minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Joe Dator from JoeDator.com and author of the upcoming Inked.
And I'm Suzen, Tekla, Kruglnska. And I'm at Kruglnska.com. Good luck spelling that. And find the Comedy Film Funnel, the new podcast Joe and I are doing on Facebook and Twitter.
Yay!
Oh,
that's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing too. Yes.
Yeah.
Comedy Film Funnel.
Yes.
Because funnels are funny.
We've made peace with it that it's a terrible name for a show.
You've made peace with it. I'm not sure I've made peace with it.
We funnel one film at a time.
Right.
Through
Yeah, it's
the
like
podcast.
a funnel. Things go into the funnel and then come out the bottom and never to be heard from again.
Alliterative. And, yeah.
It seems like you'd want the comedy to be in a comedy receptacle because after the funnel it goes into a receptacle. That's where things
There's
live.
this massive comedy films, thousands of them, and we are funneling both. It's a verb and it's both verb and noun. Each film one at a time.
A funnel is a receptacle of sorts, and then it kind of passes
Temporary
it on.
receptacle. And
Well, because you're
things-
passing it on to the recipients, the ear recipients. It's like an ear funnel.
Yeah, but you can't have anything in a funnel because it seeps out of the bottom of the funnel.
It's the seeping is what we're doing. That's our job.
Seeping
is the seeping.
comedy funnel.
Yeah. We're
right.
we're the seepers.
Right. Well, wait. Okay, we'll be seeping comedy to you very soon, folks.
We'll be seeping you in all the old familiar places.
I'm only seeping. Well, thanks for coming back to the show, you guys. So happy to have you here to talk about minute 31 of The Last Jedi. Minute 31 starts off with Kylo Ren and his TIE fighter buddies zooming by. What's that called when a plane
Strafe?
goes really strafing? No, it's not like barnstorming or something. Anyway, the ships are going really close to the windows there. And it ends later on with Hux asking us, what is the point of all of this? And
What is the point?
Tough to disagree.
Roll credits.
Well, you can't agree or disagree. You can't agree or disagree with a question. He's literally asking, what is the point?
Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah.
You agree that he is asking that question. I agree. Well, I guess I can't argue with a fact. Nor can you agree with a question.
Now I think we're back to not arguing with facts. I think that was a policy for a few years, but now we're back into accepting facts and not arguing with them. So.
Yeah, the entire definition of things like a fact, an opinion, these things have all gone out the window. I'm still confused when I see a poll which says like, what do you think is going to happen on this TV show? And that's not a poll. That's a thing that's going to happen or not. What does it matter what you think is going to happen? It's not an opinion. It's not a matter of opinion. An opinion is what that soup needs salt.
That's a good movie.
Right. That person is good looking. Right. Just those are opinions. Right. But if you say, well, is it your opinion that guy stole $10,000 from his employer?
Yes.
That's not an opinion. Not up for an opinion. I see polls like that. I'm just saying.
But he did anyway.
Right.
You got to stop looking at this.
But it's provable one way or the other, so it's thus not under the umbrella of an opinion.
Are these social media polls?
Sometimes they're just conversations I overhear back when I used to overhear conversations.
Yes, remember that? I miss
Conversation polls.
Yes.
You're
Welcome
up
to
against
another
the glass.
episode of Things That Irk Joe.
Well, here's something that I can't decide if it irks me or not. In the beginning of this minute, we see they're on the bridge of the Raddus, the Raddus, and you see the TIE fighters zoom by. And I never really noticed it until I really looked close. But between the sound design and it's almost like you can hear it go like and rattle the whole bridge of
Rattle the
ship.
Raddus.
It's a
Yeah.
Raddus. It's
There's
a Raddus
shake.
rattling.
There's a camera shake that goes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so on the one hand, I think it's super cool because that's something we haven't really seen. The like a ship being influenced, the way like you would if a subway car went by or something like that. And but obviously on a physics level, but I think we're long past that, right? Complaining about the physics in Star Wars isn't that kind of like ship sailed 50 years ago?
We'll be going through. There's a minute coming up this week where we're gonna have to have to get in there.
Yeah, physics will happen.
Yeah,
the people who make Star Wars have pretty much given us enough information over the years for us to know not to care about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it comes down to this decision of, is it cool or is it lame? And it's cool. Therefore, it's
cool.
It stays.
Does it add to the atmosphere or serve the story? In which case, it's fine.
Yeah.
As with any good sci-fi, right? I mean,
well, I think what the reason it works is because Star Wars is not sci-fi.
Space fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's space fantasy or space opera or whatever. So it's not bound by these things.
Wars.
I think, as Susan said, there's something coming up later this week. And if all you people in the audience have nothing else to do this week, please join us. And that really, really makes you go, yeah, this would be a problem if Star Wars was science fiction. Thankfully, it isn't.
If this were real, this might be a problem.
I have a lot to say about that, so I'm looking forward to that. I used to do science writing, so I just love digging into this stuff, so I can't help it. And that's, and also 2001, of course, was utterly accurate in every way and actually is connected to what we'll be talking about. So you have to tune in later this week because we've
please
now plugged this so much.
Join us, won't you?
Buzzing the tower. Is that what you were thinking of, Alex?
Maybe buzzing. Yeah, maybe
buzzing the tower.
I love that lumpy ship. I love it. The lumpy, the
Lumpy?
lumpiness.
Oh,
the
lumpies.
lumpies.
Not Chewbacca's son.
The lumpiness of the Raddus.
Yeah,
well, that's a Mon Calamari ship, right? So it's designed by fish.
Oh.
Fish made that ship.
It does look like it. It does look like it's something you'd find underwater. Yeah,
it's a fishy ship. It's kind of a nautical sort of a ship. It's a ship that looks like it's an invertebrate.
Yeah.
I wonder if
it's just because I've been.
I could probably look this up, but I wonder if they build them underwater.
They've got to, because they do everything underwater.
I guess.
Don't they?
Well, or unless they build them in space. I don't know what the. Seems like shipyards happen in space. It makes more sense. But who knows?
Well, maybe that's why they're sort of just bubbly and kind of non-specific, because they build them underwater and they don't know they can't even see what they're doing.
Right.
Maybe it's just because I've been reading a bunch of Richard Scarry books lately, but now I want to see like spaceships designed by all different types of animals. Like I want to see what the cat spaceship, what would the cat like?
Carpeted inside the cat spaceship.
Yeah.
It would
carpeted.
It would be upholstered, but then the upholstery would be scratched to hell.
Right.
Right, and it'd be driven by a galley of mouse slaves in the operating the warp drive in the basement.
Right, on a little like
mouse slaves that know they're going to be dinner.
Slave birds that are pulling the ship. Like a chariot. There you go.
A bird chariot.
I think. Or no. It would be slave humans. Let's face it. It would be slave cat owners.
Yeah, that's a dog
slaving.
And I think there's a lot of I have good news for you, Alex. I think there's a rich vein of material in the space cats genre for you to check out. So
that's probably true.
It's a common thing. Let me introduce you to the Man Kazin Wars later. But
now I like this minute because it has something that's unusual for Star Wars, which is some mother-son drama.
Yeah.
There's not a thing that comes up that often.
Yeah.
It's got this moment between a mother and a son that is really heavy.
Do you feel like it's heavy? I feel like it's not heavy enough. I feel like
you think the son deciding whether or not to commit matricide is not a very emotionally charged.
I just don't think it. They just show her face, show his face, show her face, show his face, and you're supposed to,
That's all they need.
Gather. Yeah, I don't know. I think Leia was not developed enough in any of these Disney movies. I miss that. I wish they had nailed her older personality from the originals. Don't you feel like they never quite? Han Solo is Han Solo, and and Luke is actually, greatly improved, which, everybody kind of agrees with, I think. But Leia they never, I don't know what it is, but they never quite captured the old Leia. And so I feel like that's kind of what's missing. Do you think that they should have shown any kind of flashbacks or any inkling of Kylo's eye view of his childhood, just to give us a little feel for that? Because it's so hard to imagine it.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say that everybody agrees about anything in this movie. It seems to be very, yeah.
One thing we can all agree on is The Last Jedi.
But I think they do a good job of just sprinkling, which is what, we all know that if you throw out kind of some, vagaries about the past or about the, the rest of the universe in this movie, it's going to be a lot better than what you would get if you actually spelled that all out. And so by just showing a glimpse of, later we'll get a little tiny glimpse of earlier, maybe not even child, but just kind of earlier, Ben Solo, and we get tiny snippet of I guess it's not in this movie, right? It's in the next one, the little snippet of Leia training. Is that this movie or is that the next movie?
That's the next. That's the next movie.
Yeah.
And so
tiny snippet,
just tiny snippet, the bounty hunter. But they I think I much prefer that, and I know that then that's leaving it out there for the ancillary materials to dig into, but I don't think we need to see that necessarily on screen all the time. I could be wrong. I really enjoyed Solo, even though that was full of things that I said we didn't need to see. So
I just don't feel any real connection between Leia and Kylo. So it just doesn't. It fell a little flat for me that moment.
Well, they don't ever share a scene together. The two actors don't ever get to be in the same scene. But this one, where the way it cuts back and forth is, it doesn't just cut. It sort of does that quick fade thing, which is very much like at the end of Empire Strikes Back, when Vader is calling out to Luke, and Luke is in the Falcon and sort of answering him. It's the same effect that they go back and forth with that like sort of slow psychic. It's a psychic connection. That works very well for me. I don't need flashbacks to Kylo Ren as a 9-year-old, because Adam Driver does it. He does it all. I think he shows you the 9-year-old. I think his performance gives you everything you need to know about him.
There's little scenes of Rey. We do get to see Rey, flashback to seeing her parents flying off. And I don't know, just like that kind of really short thing, I just feel like would have added something. I just don't, like I said, and I do appreciate that they're having some psychic connection. I get that, but I don't know, just need a little something to push me over the top. I just don't feel the connection. But the next scene is actually wonderful, I think.
Yeah, well, I was going, that's jumping ahead a tiny bit. I was going to say, what if, to show the connection, what if Leia, spoiler alert, she got sucked out the window. When that happens, what if her wallet floated out of her pocket, and it opened up into the camera, and you saw a picture of her and young Kylo Ren, having a little wallet size.
His second grade picture. Yeah,
or the two of them eating ice cream, something like that.
That would have been a bit on the nose.
The ice cream would have been on their nose.
Well, there's that bit where Kylo has his finger on the button, and then she's got her psychic connection. She can feel him. She can feel he's close, and maybe she can even feel that he's got his finger on the button.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can't do it, and he takes his finger off the button. And I'm very glad that it doesn't immediately cut back to her kind of going, whew, that was a close one. There's not like that, hit you over the head with that moment. In fact, it doesn't cut back to her for 2 or 3 shots. It does. I don't think it cuts back to her until the moment when she gets sucked out of the thing, after he takes his hand off the button, which I think is a good choice.
Well,
it would have been too literal to just cut right back to her reacting to him taking his finger off the button.
Right. Or cut even closer, really tight zoom on her eyes and a little bead of sweat going down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
adjusts her tie. Yay.
Would kind of two things related to this, because this is kind of one of the main things in this minute, is one, does this connection only happen when they're physically near each other like that? It's weird that they don't. I feel like it's always when we see we first hear about this kind of like, Force users being able to sense each other. I feel like the first time it's Darth Vader being like, oh, I sensed something, a presence I haven't felt. Like, and Obi-Wan is in a different room all the way across the Death Star. But here it's
not
like
at that point. He's right. He's literally standing just feet away from him because at that point Obi-Wan's hiding on the ship.
No, didn't they? Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm trying to think of the order of things.
We've searched everything, and it's like, I sense something.
I thought that was already after they left, but no, I guess they're still on there, huh?
Yeah, he's literally like probably like 50 feet away from him.
Yeah. All right, so maybe it is. Maybe there's a certain proximity alert kind of a thing.
Well, I think it has
depends
to do
on the
with
magnitude of the event going on.
Yeah, right. I agree. I think if your emotions are on high at that moment, that forges a greater connection.
And ramp it up, and you have what Kylo and Rey have, which they can do it from anywhere. So it's just a continuum.
Aided by Snoke.
No. Well, that's right. That's right. Oh yeah, you're right.
Snoke is the one who
I retract that statement.
Yeah.
But I think it's the fact that he's at that moment of almost killing her. She would feel that from across the galaxy. I think it's because it's when your emotions are firing on all cylinders.
I don't remember. Was it implied that she could feel when he killed Han Solo? Because you think that would also be a similar kind of.
Yes.
Is there a shot of her?
It cuts to her reacting to it.
Yeah, it does.
And she almost collapses at that. Not collapse, but she just kind of like has a moment of.
It's a senior moment.
Yeah, she's like, "Where did I put my keys?" But then also, so they sense each other, but we're not. It's not like the mirror image of Obi-Wan, controlling. If you ask me. Luke to blow up the Death Star originally. It's not like, like she's not controlling him saying like, don't blow us up. Like, like she's not like,
no,
easing his muscles around the, it's literally him having an emotional kind of connection and being not, we're seeing the struggle between his light and dark sides here and his, inability to fully commit to this dark side persona, right? That's he's not able to kind of cross that bridge.
And who hasn't been in this situation, really?
Right.
Who hasn't been on the verge of killing their mother and then suddenly decide not to do it, but then their two bros do it instead?
Right.
I love the fact that the other two, I think it's a great bit of film making there. I like the fact that the two TIE fighters keep they don't care. I love the fact that the moment of the relief of the tension of is he going to kill her or not is immediately undercut by those other guys just went and did it.
They're just someone else will do it.
That's nice how we know.
Timing. Yeah,
and that's how we know she's not their mother too.
Right.
Or they just hate her more.
Their moms aren't on that ship.
Maybe they're just angrier at her. She's the two. Yeah. She's never mentioned us once in all the saga.
That's Jason and Janice.
Oh yeah,
that's who that is.
The Wonder Twins.
Exactly who that is. Yeah. We got written out of the whole damn thing.
So then the ship gets blown up and Princess Leia gets sucked out into space.
It's so perfect. It's a perfect shot. I love that shot. It's perfect.
Great. Yeah.
He nails
and
it.
Several calamari too. No one ever mentions them, but
that was one of my notes was, of course Admiral Akbar's dead. I hadn't really looked in the background because I'm always so, the Leia thing is very, as Susan just said, it's a perfect shot. It's very kind of eye-catching and it's not distracting. What's distracting in a good way? Engaging. But then if you look,
it's right in your face. The camera's right on it and doesn't cut away. It's almost
totally in your face.
It's almost like watching. It's uncomfortable to watch. It's almost like you're watching a snuff film. You're watching something really horrendous happen, and it does not flinch.
It feels like
can't turn away.
Exactly how it would go down. If you actually experience that, you're like standing in Leia's shoes. That's exactly what would happen. You feel like that when they got
in disbelief that this is really happening. In the theater when I saw this, I was in disbelief.
Yeah.
Well, how did you feel when you first saw it?
like I said, I mean, it's like you're experiencing what she's experiencing, and it feels exactly accurate. Like, you know, if you were ever in a spaceship that the windows were blown out, you know, because we all know about the physics, and you get sucked out of an airplane, you know. Of
course.
So although, it's perfect.
I think scientists would say, well, really, you get blown out of an airplane once the higher air pressure moving into I put on my Mr. Wizard or my Neil deGrasse Tyson hat for a second.
Yeah. But it took, I mean, not to make a pun, it took the wind out of me the first time I saw it.
Yeah, no. Well, that was the we'll open it to the panel. There's a weird meta level to this, seeing it in the theater and knowing that shortly after the filming of this film, in between the filming and the release, that Carrie Fisher actually passed away. And so you have this kind of like, oh, well, we don't know exactly how she's going to fit into the rest of the saga. And then here, you know, half an hour into this movie, she gets sucked out into space, and there's a gasp, like Joe said, it literally takes the wind out of you. Like, did you think that this was going to be it for her?
I did.
Oh yeah, you would never guess what they did next. You would never guess what they did next.
Yeah,
right.
And that's why it was so thrilling to me. But because I was so traumatized by this scene, because going into the theater knowing that at some point they're going to have to deal with Carrie Fisher's death, and then this scene happened. It happened rather very quickly, and then I sat there going, "Did I just see Princess Leia die on camera? You know, did I just watch the death of this character? And is that how it's going to go down?" And I just was completely stunned and sort of piecing it together in my mind. It was like, did this really happen? I'm not even sure I just saw that.
I mean, how could you imagine that they would salvage her from that situation? You just wouldn't. You just wouldn't.
No, I had no idea what the thing that's going to happen was about to happen or anything.
I think we can all say it's not like anyone listening.
I don't think anyone
doesn't know.
Anyone was like,
happen,
"Oh, I know I know where this is going. I see where this is going. This is an old movie cliche. They've been using this trope for years. The old sucked out of a spaceship and somehow survive the dark cold of space and float back indoors." Yeah, no.
I have very mixed feelings about this whole trajectory of the storyline, and I'm not objecting to her using previously undisclosed force powers. It's more just that it seems like it seems almost like, you know how in the original Star Wars, Obi-Wan was not supposed to die in the movie. He was supposed to return to the Rebel base and, you know, stay there and stuff, and then they kind of realized that there's nothing for Ben Kenobi to do once they're at the Rebel base. He's just, you know, sitting around with everybody. And I feel like why it seems weird to me that they go through the trouble of having Princess Leia almost die, then having her in a coma through most of the film, and then they bring her back, but then she's like in a coma for the next film too. Like it almost seems like it would have been better to just pull the Band-Aid off now and just have her die this way, because she's really not, you know, she's not needed really for the rest of the story. So it would have been much more dramatic to have it, and it's just weird that it's kind of like they bring her back, but they don't bring her back. And then, you know, I know they were really limited as to what they could do, because they couldn't say, okay, well, now let's film a totally new death scene or whatever, because anyway, it's just story. I know everyone loves Princess Leia and loves Carrie Fisher, so they don't want to kill her off, but it seems like, you know,
could she have played the Holdo role, though?
That's what I was.
Could she have been the stand-in for Admiral Holdo and had all of the drama that goes on between Holdo and Poe? But I don't think that would never be believable if it was Leia.
But I think that whole
it would have been believable that
anyway,
that Poe would mutiny against Leia.
Right.
How about we'll have Leia die here, and then the rest of the story goes on, except instead of the solution being Princess Leia coming out of the shadows and being like, "Poe, you should really learn a lesson about listening to your boss." It just he could learn it the way everyone learns it.
Then they'd have to cut out all of her scenes for the next 2 hours of the movie, and
she's just laying in bed most of the time.
I think, you know, the intention was Han
she has
Solo.
Great scenes after this.
Yeah,
and
I think,
they're meaningful. She has the very last scene in the film even.
I think, you know, episode not what is it, 6, 7, 8, 9 the episodes, the Force Awakens, the Force Awakens was Han's movie, the Last Jedi was Luke's movie, and they really wanted, then that would be the next one would have been Leia's, and so it was so hard
really
it was so hard for them to back away from that, and then there's this lovely feminist like trajectory to all this that I love, and I'm so happy they wanted to go for that, and it made sense with the movie where Rey's the middle of it all to really boost Princess Leia, because she had always been, this spunky character, but not as cool as the other guys. And, obviously they just really, you can just imagine the dreams they had for that character to really blow it up and finally give her due. And so you just had to, I'm sure it was just too hard for them to let it go.
I can totally agree that I can see that it was sentimental reasons as opposed to solid,
but it's unfortunate
storytelling.
It does it kind of sullies the whole thing.
I mean, we can talk about this more tomorrow when this plays out, but but I wish that they had gone with having her die in between the films. I love that she does not die in this film, even though by the time the film was come out, they could have edited her out of it and had the character die during the film, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they didn't is because this is not going to go the way you think. And that is every decision with this movie was, this is not going to go the way you think. And it didn't go the way I think, and I love it for that. But then what happened with the next film where they, awkwardly stitched her scenes into this Dickie Goodman record, it just doesn't work for me at all. And it did a greater disservice to Carrie Fisher and to the character than anything in this film. And they really should have had a dignified funeral at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker for Princess Leia, had her death happen off camera.
Kind of the in the novelization of this book, it starts out with the funeral of Han Solo, and so that could have been a continuing theme. Let's just start each movie with a funeral. But no, I agree. There's some not to get soapboxy about it's not just relegated to this movie, but a lot of modern quote unquote criticism of films seems to basically boil down to this wasn't exactly like other movies, and it didn't follow a pattern that I was expecting, and that the fact that this doesn't do that, I think, is what has thrown some people, and they're not to belittle anybody's legitimate criticisms, and I'm not saying everybody has to like everything, but
some people like to be thrown when they pay their $16.50.
Exactly. I'd pay $20 to just have somebody throw me. Just go down to the Home Depot parking lot and
toss you off. What were you going to say, Susan?
Well, just what's sad is, clearly they had in mind that Princess Leia is going to have some cool Force thing where, you had to sort of get her to that level of having really hardcore Force, because we hadn't gotten to that. She'd barely had the Force, or, we didn't even know she was trained. Like, did we know she was trained to be a Jedi? I didn't even know that till the 9th movie. And so, you can imagine, what would have been wonderful and cathartic for all of us is if she had like saved somebody's life, or done something really dramatic and in a heroine kind of way, in a kick-ass, badass kind of way, but maybe also in a feminine way. And this was what they had to do. This was the big Force thing to show that she's really, up there with Luke and everybody else, and Rey, as a Jedi. Was this floaty Mary Poppins thing, and I find that very heartbreaking.
We'll get to that much more in the next in the next minute.
Star Wars. Oh, sorry, I thought you were looking it up.
The last thing I want to say about it is that I really like that the red button means fire. And it's one of the great things that Star Wars does is no matter how weird things get, you know what the thumb on the button means, because it's a button and it's red, and you know that means fire, and you know it from a lot of Earth stuff.
It's stop.
So it's like, it just. Star Wars is full of these things where you could watch it with the sound off and you would kind of know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always placed in a very strategic way so that to signal to the audience something very familiar so that they can stay with the story and be engaged. So if he had put his finger on a green lever, you wouldn't know that. And that meant fire, which it could, because this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But no, it's got to be a button and it's got to be red so that the audience knows immediately, oh, he's about to shoot.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love when Star Wars does that. I love when something familiar is in there. It's just familiar enough to communicate.
Yeah. That's it's sort of that culture shock thing that limiting that culture shock thing that Lucas was always saying, like not explaining stuff, but giving you enough signifiers that you know.
Yeah, he makes
still
things
know
look just familiar enough that you get the idea.
Speaking of red, my only other note is that Kylo Ren has too much lipstick on. Did you notice there's a lipstick problem in this movie? Like
There is a lipstick problem.
There is. Everybody's got too much lipstick on. And the color changes from scene to scene. If you watch Rey, like through her whole being on the island, it's so weird. It's like dark red and then light red and then orange. You know, it's weird. I don't know. The makeup person, we should look it up. Yeah, it's weird.
It's either the makeup person or the person doing the color correction later on.
Maybe.
You know, and sort of turning up everybody's redness in their face a little bit too much. Or it could be Adam Driver, who has the ability to just move all the blood to his lips when he's emotional and get really, really,
I believe that.
really baboony with the lips.
Sith pouting.
You know? Yeah, it's this Sith pout. And it turns everything deep, bright red. There's so much red in this movie, and I hadn't even noticed how the lips follow that pattern. I do like at the end when after going through this whole thing, and then that he doesn't shoot, and then his buddies shoot, thinking they're doing him a huge favor. Adam Driver does
killed
a
your
little
mom
face
for
move. He does a little face. Yeah, dude, we did you this thing. You know, you're welcome. He does this little thing with his face, and I can't describe it, but it's him doing a little face move that says, I am feeling many things, and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
I'm very the emotions now. Yeah.
Well,
the finest actor alive currently.
Will that wrap it up for minute 31? Anyone else have anything they wanted to? We have much more Princess Leia action tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're gonna fight, aren't we?
Maybe,
Ooh.
yeah.
We could, if you'd like.
Could be some conflict over this, but that's okay. That's okay. That's what it's all. It makes it fun.
Will there be a fight on Star Wars Minute? Tune in tomorrow.
Well, if you want to join in the fight, call our hotline 8-Day Greedo on your local telephone and leave a message there telling us your opinion about something that's coming up in the movie. You could, let's say, you got Snoke getting cut in half, you got the ship getting blown up in half, you got all these different things you can tell us your
so much
rational and very firmly held opinions about. So call 8-Day Greedo, and we'll see you, and we'll see Susan and Joe hopefully tomorrow on the next Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.
Minute.